You're early.
Good afternoon, committee. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 2:00. 2:00 p.m. I would like to confirm that we do have quorum for today's meeting. I'd also like to confirm we have our CAO clerk and members of our senior management team here and present today. As always, advise our public that input can be submitted to our agendas at the following email address, tmlpubliccomment@muskokalakes.ca. I would also note that we have received no additional public comments at this point. Reminder that today's meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the Township of Muskoka Lakes website and YouTube channel. By participating in the open public meeting today, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and posted online. I do want to note that there was a supplementary agenda issued the other day. It was a submission from Karen Lang regarding the funding request for a playground in the Village Hill Park in Windermere Village. At this point, I'd like to ask committee if there's any disclosures of pecuniary interest. No, seeing none, I will now move on to the portion of our meeting, which is to discuss and receive any kind of public input on our upcoming 2024 budget, 2025 budget, I guess. As noted, and I will be inviting Director Donaldson up to speak and introduce this topic. There is no requirement to register, so any members wanting to speak that are in attendance today, either in the room or online, we will be looking and welcoming any of those comments. So at this point, I'd like to turn the floor over to Director Donaldson.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair. So as part of our annual budget process, staff are committed to providing opportunities to hear from the public on their priorities. Public consultation for the upcoming 2025 municipal budget began in June with the publishing of our survey that was and still is up on engagemuskokalakes.ca and is continuing with this in-person meeting here today. Staff are interested in hearing from and learning from the public, so a budget can be brought forward that has considered those perspectives for committee's consideration. Committee will recall that Council approved this year's budget guideline in August, setting a limit of an overall tax levy increase of 10.9%, which includes an increase in the funding of capital reserves from the tax levy of an additional $1 million over the 2024 level to a total of $6 million. Following this meeting, staff will continue to work on preparing the draft operating capital and budget package that will be presented to committee on October 22nd. And with that, happy to turn it over to the public.
Thank you. So I'm not sure I see anybody in the room from the public. So I guess I will ask staff if there's anybody online in the waiting room. Okay. Should I wait for a few minutes? Clerk or? So. Okay, Councillor Zavitz, do you have a comment?
Thank you. Through you to our Director of Finance. Mark, I wonder, again, this is just clarification more than anything. Did I read in the documents that, and I cursory overview, that we're suggesting an additional $1 million over and above the 1.5 that we allocated to reserves last year?
Okay, so today is, yes, yeah, so let me just ask this question of our clerk, because I do believe today's purpose is to talk about public comments. Let us close off on that, and then I'll see if we are allowed to have conversations about the budget actually in front of us. So, Madam Clerk, please.
Through you, if there's any overall questions about process, I think those are fine. But if it's questions about the particular budget, because the full budget document hasn't been made public yet, I would recommend holding off on any specific questions on the final proposed budget.
Thank you. Through you, to our clerk, I mean, the information that I got was in the July, general finance agenda budget overview. So that's my question. It's nothing to do with a confidential document that hasn't been released yet. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, thank you. I think it's the focus today is on receiving the public comment. The next step in the budget process will be centered with and collecting all that. Okay. Thank you though, because you gave me that extra few minutes to talk to see if we have anybody else in the audience. Still nobody. Okay. So, one of the things that I think is important also in this process, and I think actually Councillor Zavitz, thank you for even bringing this up, is at the next step. And I don't want to speak out of turn, Director Donaldson, so please feel free to step in here. We will be receiving a preliminary draft of the overall budget based upon the guidelines that we gave back in July. And if there are any items that committee members are feeling they would like to put forward, no different than what we're asking for the public today, it would be appropriate, I think, at that point, when you see the entire budget as a whole, we will ensure that there's an opportunity for committee members to also bring forward any ideas. So it gives us some time, another month, to think if there's something that a committee member would also like to bring forward. So I feel like I have now taken us to 2:07. And I would just like to ask staff one more time if there are any members of the public in our waiting room. Okay, well, I am going to say then that I have one resolution to read. Oh, Councillor Edwards. Oh, and Councillor Roberts. I apologize. You know what? Actually, I apologize. I will ask at this point if there's any committee. I should have asked that. So Councillor Edwards and then Councillor
Okay,
Roberts.
thank you. How are we advertising all these meetings? Because people don't seem to be able to find them. I had a call today about tomorrow night's meeting. They can't find it anywhere. And that, it's like a maze going through some of our websites. It should be front and center. And I think what we should be doing is getting notices out to all the hall boards, to the Chamber of Commerce, get them to like a nice flyer in that, so that their members can post them. We should be posting it at all the community centers, sending it out to all the churches and that, because we do a very poor job of advertising a meeting, as you can see.
Thank you.
So I think we should review the whole thing, because something has to be done. This is not right. Thank you.
Director Peroshi, did you want, any comments on the public? Director Peroshi, yes, please.
Thank you for your comments. We certainly do, for weeks, we have been making this known that there's a meeting, published the agenda nice and early, made sure it was known on social media through our media channels that we're able to do. We can certainly look at other avenues. A lot of times, really the turnout for meeting depends on what the content of the meeting is. So, this is a very important topic, budget, but it also depends if somebody has something to come here and speak about. So we can certainly try and get it out more through some other channels. But what I would encourage members of the public to do is follow us on Facebook. Reach out to us if possible. If they're interested, they can call our phones. They can email us, anything like that. We don't typically tend to do mail outs or flyers and all that for meetings, just because they are fairly tight turnarounds. So within a couple of weeks, we've set it, and then so we'd be running around putting everything up, and then it would all come back down again. But we can look at different avenues, but certainly right now we are making sure that this is well known across the board, like we do with every type of meeting. So really, I think the biggest thing is they're looking at what is the meeting about, and I think that's driving whether people are attending or not.
Okay, so Councillor Roberts, Councillor McIntyre, and then Mayor Kelly. And CAO Pink, just before you, Mr. Councillor Roberts, CAO Pink.
Thank you. Through you. Just very quickly, I think I also should point out that I don't think it's entirely uncommon for minimal attendance at this budget meeting with the public input. I think typically we do hear from ratepayer groups when we have a budget package to discuss, and they'll have comments on that. But not often do we get what I would call sort of new requests from the community. I think there was pickleball in recent years, dominated some. But we typically haven't had a full chambers for this meeting. The Director Donaldson and I can certainly think about a different approach in future years. But we thought front-ending this meeting at this stage might be wise so that any new requests don't come in the 13th hour of a budget process. But we can certainly reevaluate and think about a different approach for next year, considering the attendance today.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. A couple points or three questions. I did reach out to the community and we did receive a reminder from the Windermere group area about the park there. So we have under the a submission from them reminding us of that. I guess now's not the time to discuss the content that I would assume. It's just been a public comment. Or is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I have two more things. I have a question to Mr. Donaldson on the term that we have been using in the past called a la carte. And I'm yeah, maybe need a better term for it, but are we going to have that? I assume that those are going to come forward. And if we were to propose anything today, as we being committee members here, that they would appear on that document. Is that correct? Or may appear?
I think, right. And today's purpose was to hear from the public. And and Director Donaldson can add into this, but I think the general thought is that when we see our next package, that in October the 22nd, at that meeting, that will allow all committee members, if you have something to add in at that point, that's when committee would actually add pieces in. But Director Donaldson, would you like to comment on that?
I don't think I have anything further to add. I think you've made the point that today's opportunity was to hear from the public, and that we can certainly entertain further direction from committee at our meeting on the 22nd in terms of what's included in that budget package.
Thank you.
Yes,
Did you have a third? Yes, did you have
so I'm going to
point?
hold off. I'm going to hold off on my other one because I misunderstood part of the direction, and
Okay.
it's just communicated. That's more for the 23rd that I bring up this thought.
Okay, yes, the 22nd, just because we're
22nd.
that, yeah, just want to make sure anybody watching does get the right date. Of October, yes.
Of
October the 22nd. Yes. My goodness. Okay, let's make a short meeting long. Councillor McIntyre.
Really quick.
Oh, that's okay.
I agree completely with Councillor Edwards. The one comment I get from constituents is, can you please do something that is not technology to give us notice of meetings? So I agree with the hall board thing. I agree with all of those things because I think it just means bigger outreach.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Kelly.
Thank you. And through you to Councillor Edwards. You mentioned tomorrow night's meeting. I have no idea what's tomorrow night's meeting.
Sorry. Do you mind just putting your mic?
Is there not one tomorrow night at 6 o'clock
Uh,
for
the AOP?
level of service?
Thank you. Through you. It's not a council meeting. It's an
I-
informational meeting for
That's
the
right,
community
but
to learn more about the.
When
level
the
of
mayor
service.
doesn't know there's a meeting going on, there's something wrong here. And that
Okay.
proves my point.
okay. Okay, so
It's not.
so tomorrow night, there is a meeting for the level of service information for the public. I think that is the summary of that. Are there any other comments about today's meeting? Councillor Edwards.
Yes, were any of these meetings through the chair advertised at the library on the board?
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, through you, no, they weren't. Occasionally when we get media releases, if they're for swimming or things of that nature, we would put them up, but I don't think there were media releases set out for these. We would share and have shared in the past,
Okay.
Facebook posts promoting them, but no formal posters.
Okay, I think staff has heard loud and clear, there is an opportunity potentially to look at it, how information is being disseminated into the public to engage on any meeting. But I think it is important to note that staff are doing things. And I think it was noted appropriately by our clerk that people will engage when it's something that they're very interested in engaging in. And, you know, typically what we've seen in the past, if there's a point of passion, that that's typically when we have somebody come up. That said, I think it's been stated, and I think I'm sensing from the side of the table that it's being noted. So I do appreciate those comments. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Counselor Zavitz?
Not to prolong the inevitable, but it does make me wonder, you know, here we are in a public environment, looking for public input, and we don't get any. And I'm hearing that we have been diligent in our marketing of same. So next month, when we begin the process in earnest, and the public are still certainly allowed and welcomed to participate. So it almost calls into question the need for this particular meeting, I might say.
So,
For what it's worth.
yes, I appreciate that comment. I think coming off of the heels of what Director Donaldson had suggested, that the process was done in this way to try and hear from the public if there was something. And in the note, the example of pickleball was given, that historically, instead of waiting till the end, that we'd hear from people at the beginning of the process so that it could be contemplated as the whole the first time versus waiting till the end and then everybody's scrambling. So I think the intention was to start differently, but Councillor Nishikawa?
Thank you. And I just wanted to say through you, I don't recall us having these meetings in the daytime, the first meeting. They would always be in the evenings. And I know just personally, I've been to 3 different job sites today that are very, very busy with lots of people. And in fact, the people that I would want to be engaged in this, no offense to the rest of us seniors, but it's them that I want to hear from. It's those people that are hustling out there and doing everything to live here, and are going to be impacted by, they're not pickleball players, I will just say. They're just laborers out there, and they have a voice too, but not in the middle of the day.
Okay.
And basically losing time at work. So I just don't know how we landed here. And in fact, I do truly feel, and I've thought this for a long, long time, that we are not engaging.
Okay.
I would just say, 20 to 50. We leave out that whole gap of people in so many ways.
Okay, so I've heard about the engagement piece. I think that's been noted. The one thing I would like to note, and is we did get one, thank you. We did get one notice or one request that was in writing, and that person wasn't here today. And I recognize that through social media, not everybody's on it. But we also, as counselors, have an opportunity to, make sure we share within our own communities when things are coming up that are important. So we have our own email chains. We have our ability to go to different meetings. We're at the hall boards ourselves, possibly. And so that becomes part of, I think, our role too, is to be outward ambassadors. And I'm not saying, I think this all needs to be considered in a whole, but I think we kind of all own it to make sure that that our community is engaged in understanding what's going on around our table. So, because there's no doubt in my mind that staff is working very hard towards that goal. I see Councillor Edwards. Oh my gosh, I just did it. Councillor Roberts. Wow. Yeah, I really got myself thrown off. I just did this. I've worked with these two diligently for 6 years. Never once has that happened. Okay, Councillor Roberts.
Oh, goodness. Whatever I have to be compared to a counselor, you know, my good buddy over there, Councillor Edwards. And I was what I was going to say, Madam Chair, and through you is, yes, we have to get it out to these people to see what they can do. On the particular submission from Ms. Lang, I knew that it was a topic that I really wanted that they wanted to have presented and considered for 2025. And so I encouraged them to just remind committee that it's still there. And Mrs. Lang was not able to attend today, so she has presented it. And I encourage others to, if they want something, put it in writing, as Mrs. Lang did, and then we'll discuss it for sure. So, but it's so. Anyways, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. So this was an interesting evolution of our budget discussion. So a question for you. Are there any other comments? Okay, I'm seeing none. I will read our motion to adjourn. Oh, sorry, last question. Are there any members of the public?
No.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Kent. No. Councillor Burry. Seconded by Councillor Zavitz. Be it resolved that this meeting adjourn at 2:23 p.m. And the next regular meeting of the General Finance Committee will be held on Wednesday, October the 16th, 2024 at 9 a.m. or at the call of the chair electronically from the Council Chambers Municipal Office in Port Carling, Ontario. All those in favor? Okay, that carries. I thank staff. I would like to thank staff. I'd like to personally thank Director Donaldson for taking the feedback we had given last year about perhaps front-ending this public session and trying to get that feedback earlier on in the process. So I appreciate the time and, you know, in the spirit of continuous improvement, we will always look at the way we can do things differently and better. I do want to thank committee members and members of staff also for joining us here this afternoon, and I look forward to seeing everybody in a couple of weeks at our next